Okay, so we're dealing with a front load LG washer that has bad bearings. Typically, if you have bad bearings, your machine is going to sound like an airplane taking off in your house. Now, this particular machine isn't quite there yet. It doesn't really sound that loud when it's running. But what it is doing is making a knocking noise, and that is just an indication of one of two things. Either the bearings are starting to wear out and they are causing the drum to wobble, which is creating that banging noise, or we have a cracked spider arm. So my experience tells me that it's more than likely just the bearings, because I'm not seeing other signs that the spider arm is cracked, but we won't know for sure until we open it up. So do keep in mind that if you're planning on doing a bearing replacement, once you get in there, you might have to replace the spider arm as well. But we will get to that in just a moment once we get it all opened up. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the diagnostic mode just so you can listen and hear what we are experiencing right now. Okay, so to put it in the diagnostic mode, I'm just going to press the wash, rinse, and spin speed buttons together, and then press the power button. And then we're going to press it once to get it started, and then we're going to press it again for it to go up to the spin cycle. So it's not super bad. I don't know that many people would even notice, when they have their machines in their house. It kind of comes in and out, gets louder, and then goes away for a little while. I'm not even quite sure if you can really hear it. So now we're going to open it up, and we're going to see if it's the bearings or if it's the spider arm that's causing the problem. We'll replace whatever parts we need, and then once we put it back together, we'll turn it back on and make sure that everything's running nice and smoothly, and I'll let y'all hear that as well. Okay, I just want to take a second real quick before we get into actually taking the machine apart. With each one of my videos, I try to give you the best step-by-step walkthrough that I can. I try to be very detailed. I try to go screw by screw. But do keep in mind that depending on the specific model of washer that you have, there might be a few different steps along the way. LG's front load washers, for the most part, they are all the same in terms of how they come apart, but there might be a few different things, and I will do my best as I'm walking through this one to point out where you might see some differences. Also too, I'm going to put links in the description for the bearings as well as the spider arm, in case you get to a point where you find out, that maybe your spider arm needs to be replaced. You can go to that link and get it from Amazon. I think a spider arm costs $65 to $70. So as far as the bearings go, I'm going to list 3 different links, and that's because LG uses 3 different sets, different sizes of bearings dependent upon your specific model. So you can do one of 2 things. You can go on Google and you can type in the model number of your machine, and then see what size bearings are going to be the right ones for you, and then go to the description and get the link for the one that will work for you. Or you can click on the links, and usually on Amazon, those sellers will put in the description a list of all the models that it'll work for. So I would definitely encourage you to do a little bit of looking and research first, just to make sure that you are ordering the right ones. There's a small set, a medium-sized set, and a large set. The majority of the machines on the market are going to use the medium-sized set. There are a few models that are going to be much older models that use the smaller size, and then the other end of that is you have some models that have the larger bearings. And so for this particular machine that we're working on, it does in fact use the middle-sized bearings, which, like I just said, are the most common ones. But again, just do a little bit of research first and make sure that you're buying the right ones before you get started. So now I'll take you back to taking the machine apart and figuring out how we get this done. Okay, so we're going to start in the back of the machine. And you're going to want to go ahead and take the lid off. And to do that, you're going to have a screw right here and a screw right here. It'll be the bottom screws on these 2 plastic tabs. We're going to go ahead and take those out. Now you can take your lid off. So if you're in the back, you just want to grab it and pull it towards you. If you're in the front, you want to push it away from you and just pull it off. All right, now we're going to go ahead and remove the back panel. And there's 4 screws that hold it in place. Here, 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 and here. Take those out. Once you got those screws out, you can just pull the panel towards you, pop it out. Now that we've got the back opened up, we've got a hose right here that runs to your tub. You want to just go ahead and pull that off, disconnect it. Okay. You have a screw right here going to this ground wire. You want to remove that. Next, we're going to remove the shock absorber. There's a little pin that holds the shock absorber in place. And if you get yourself a 13 millimeter long socket, you can go ahead and just slip this right over. And it'll snug up on there. And you get yourself a pair of channel locks. And just pull it out on the other side. And that releases the shock absorber. So now you can just pull it out. Whoops. Sorry, you can just pull it out towards you. Okay. Now, if you don't have enough room, some of the models, depending on how the pin is and some of the other things that are back here, you may not be able to get a socket over it. And then, if not, absolute worst case, you can unscrew these 4 screws right here. Okay, and this plastic piece actually comes off, and it'll stay. The shock absorber would just stay on there like this, and instead of removing the shock, you're just removing this plastic piece. And then when you go to put your machine back together, you would just screw these 4 screws back in place. Next, you want to get yourself a pair of snips or a pair of scissors. There is a little clip that holds this wire harness in place. And you can just clip that. That allows you to be able to bring the cord out like this. There's a little twist tie on this bag. Just untwist it. Okay, so now we'll unclip these wires. And the white one's pretty easy. Just push in on the clip and separate it. This one is a little bit trickier. Put your screwdriver up under here, separate that, and now we're done in the back. Okay, so now we start with the front part. You're going to want to remove this screw right here. There's one screw that helps hold the panel in place on this side. Next, you want to remove the drawer. So pull the drawer out, and then if you look here, there's a little tab right there. You press in on that and just pull it out, and the whole drawer comes out. And then you want to remove the 2 screws that hold the control panel to your dispenser for the detergent. Okay, now down towards the bottom of the machine, you'll have this little door right here. I'm going to pull that down, take it off, and then there's a screw that holds it in place right here. You want to remove that one. Now your model might also have a screw right here, and if it does, you just want to remove that one as well. Pull this out, and then you've got another screw right here that you want to remove. Okay, now you want to go ahead and disconnect all the wires that run from your user interface control panel. So there's a couple clips right here. If yours are clipped in there, you just undo them, pull your wires all out. And this is going to be one of those things where, depending upon the model of your machine, you might have as few as 2 connections up to as many as 4 or 5. This one has 3. So these 2 white ones are going to be the ones that run to your computer board. And then you're going to want to go ahead and unclip this one. This, if you have a red one, it's going to be the light for your boot seal, or the light that's on your boot seal that shines into your tub. Now that you've got those disconnected, you can pull your control panel off. Now this one comes off really easy. Sometimes they're not going to come off that easy. Sometimes you're going to have to take a flathead screwdriver and get it up underneath here like this, and then just kind of work your way over until it pops up. Now you can just remove your control panel, put it off to the side. Next, you want to take a flathead screwdriver, and we're going to open this door and remove the ring that goes around the boot seal. I'm going to give you a little closer look here so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's kind of hard to tell, but there's this little groove right here, okay? And if I pull it back, you can actually see the spring in there. And what you're going to want to do is get that off of there. Amazon does sell a tool that is a spreader to be able to help take this off. There's a spring down here, and you can use that spreader to open the spring up, and then this will just come off real easily. It costs about 10 bucks. I will put a link for it in the description if you want to use that. I don't, just because, I mean, a flathead screwdriver, you probably got one laying around, so you don't have to spend any extra money. But you just pull this back and gently work your way up underneath that spring, and then just pop it out. Next, we're going to want to go ahead and remove the front panel, and to do that, we're going to take off the screws that hold it in place. This one has 4, so again, this is going to be one of those times where your machine might be a little bit different. It can have 4, 5, or even 6 screws, so no matter how many ever it has, you just want to go ahead and remove all of those, and then that'll allow us to take the panel off. You got those screws out. I'm gonna lean over the top here, and then this is the door switch right here and the wire harness that goes to it. You want to disconnect it by just pressing in and pulling down on it, and then you can just let the panel lean towards you and pull it up and off and set it off to the side. After that, we're going to want to remove this panel. Now this metal panel right here has 4 screws that hold it in place right here, okay? And then there are 2 screws on the top of it, one here and then one on this side. You're going to want to remove those. This particular machine has this metal crossbar going from front to back. Now it supports this water heater tank. Your model may or may not have this water heater tank. If it doesn't have it, then it more than likely won't have this metal bar. You're gonna have a couple of screws that this metal bar keeps in place, and those are gonna be right here. And then on the back side of it, there'll be another 1 or 2. So in order to take this panel off, we have to remove the screws that are right here as well. Okay, so now that we got that all taken care of, we can remove this panel just by grabbing it, working it off there. Now you want to remove these 2 hoses right here, and to do that, you just move the clamps up and disconnect them, and you can go ahead and label them if you want, right for right, left for left. Now you want to come in here, and we want to remove this hose. It's got a clamp with a screw on it, so we'll just unscrew it. And you can pull this up. Now again, you might be able to skip this next step just because if your machine doesn't have this water heater, you wouldn't have to take care of this right now. But for this one, to make life a lot easier, you're gonna come over here, and you've got a short hose that runs from this water heater to the water inlet valve. And you want to go ahead and disconnect one side of that hose. It doesn't matter. I usually just do this side, but you can either do this one or this one. So now you can take this metal bar. It's connected to the water heater, and the water heater has two plastic pieces right here, tabs that slip into the metal along the side of the machine. You can just push that back, pull it out, and move it out of the way. And then you're going to want to come to your dispenser, and same thing, it's got two tabs right here that go into the metal on the side. Just push back on it, bring it out, and then what you're looking for is this hose and this clamp that hold it in place, and you just want to go ahead and unscrew that and remove it. Take your dispenser, fold it back over the back, and then you can take the water heater and the metal bar, just kind of pull it up and over the side like this. You can tuck your hose up out of the way if it's being difficult. What you're trying to do is you're trying to clear the metal bar and the containers on this side. You're trying to clear the hook right here, okay? You can go ahead and remove these little plastic tabs, undo these little plastic tabs that hold the spring in place. Okay. It just comes out like that, and you can tuck it up underneath. Do the same thing on the other side. And then you have a hose right here that runs from your drain line to the top of the tub. Now, in some cases, there won't be a hose here. Obviously, if there's not a hose there, you don't need to disconnect it. And then on some machines, the hose that runs to the water level switch is connected to the drum in the back. If that's the case, you would want to remove that as well. But again, for this model, this particular one, we don't have to do that. All we have to do is disconnect this one. So just pull it up. And now all your hoses and everything, all the wiring and hoses from the top are good to go. Okay, so next we want to remove our counterweights, which are going to be next we want to remove our counterweights. So this particular model has one up here and one down here. Again, different models might have different setups. If you have a newer style machine, it might actually have two, but they're on the sides. Some will have one on the bottom and then two smaller ones, like one right here and then a separate one over here. No matter what your setup is, you just go ahead and take all the screws out that hold it in place. And to take those out, you'll want to use a 10mm socket. This specific model doesn't have it, but I do want to point out that your specific machine might have some hoses that run from the drain pump down here all the way up to the sides of your boot seal. If they do, before you try to remove this drum, you would want to just disconnect them. And there, like I said, there'd be two connections right along in here. This is your actual drain pump, and this is your circulating pump. So those two lines run to the circulating pump, and they run water up through the hoses to your boot seal, and it sprays it into your drum. So you're going to want to get your clippers again or a pair of scissors, and you want to go ahead and cut the wire that holds this wire harness in place. And then majority of LG's setups are going to look like this, where they have a red wire, this plug with the blue and white wire, a ground wire, and the yellow one. But there, again, depending on the models, your setup down here might look a little bit different. So however it looks, just go ahead and disconnect all the wires that are running to the bottom of your machine. Now, this nut right here is a 10 millimeter as well. You can go ahead and unscrew that. Now, this is just something that I normally do, and I would definitely recommend. So take your 10 millimeter and you want to go over this part. Okay, this is another 10 millimeter nut that as you tighten it, make sure that this water heating coil stays tight and snug. They can loosen up over time, and if they do, water will leak through here. So just take that 10 millimeter and make sure that it's nice and tight. And then the nut that you took off, I always put it back on there just so I don't lose it until I'm ready for it later. And now we want to go ahead and remove the hose that runs from the bottom of the tub to the drain pump. And there's just a clamp right here that holds it in place. Get in a little bit closer so you can see that. Just take your pair of channel locks and remove it. And then last but not least, before we take the actual whole tub assembly out, you're going to want to remove the last two shock absorbers. And you only have to worry about taking out the pin in the top. So you have one here and you have one here. So you go back to your 13 millimeter screw. Make sure that these are pushed in all the way first. And then just take that, pop it on the back. Then you can take your channel locks and pull it out. Move that shock over off to the side. And then we'll do the same thing for this side. Pop that on there. And just get in there and pull it out. Now when you pull out that last shock absorber, your drum will kind of look like this, where it is from the top tilting backwards and on the bottom tilting out towards you. I do want to point out this specific machine, and I didn't catch this initially. You want to look for, as you're opening your machine up, any signs of water leakage. So right here, you can see that this is all calcium deposit. At some point, this machine was leaking water, okay? Now, if I follow it up, I didn't see a hole inside this hose. This is the drain port that allows water to come from your boot seal into the tub. But what I did find was a hole in the boot seal. So we'll go ahead and replace the boot seal while we're at it as well. Lifting this out of here can be a little bit tricky. I would definitely recommend using two people if you can. It is doable with one person. I do it all the time, but just a little note that it is heavy. And so what you're going to do is you're going to grab your springs, one here and one here, and you're going to lift up. If you can really tell here, but these springs go inside this little slot. Okay, you're just going to lift it up and pull it out. Same thing on both sides. I would recommend putting on a pair of gloves just so you don't cut your hands. Some of the metal inside there is pretty sharp. And unfortunately, it's hard for me to get a better view for you of me actually lifting it out, but I'll do my best. I usually just do one side and then the other, and then pull it out and set it on its back. Take your springs out. Now we want to disassemble the tub. And to do that, you've got screws that go in all the way around the machine. We're going to use the same 10mm bit that we were using before and just go around. Now we can separate the front half of the tub from the back half. And to do that, you will just pull up on the tub. Now you've got that half on. You're going to go ahead and turn it over. Okay, so now we are looking at the back half of the outer tub, which is the assembly that houses the bearings. So next we need to go ahead and remove this screw right here. I'm going to use a 17mm hex bit. Take that out. This is called a rotor, and underneath it is the stator. It's a magnetic system that LG uses in lieu of a traditional motor with a belt and pulley. So you want to pull that off. Because it is magnetic, there is going to be some resistance to it when you try to pull it off. I'm going to use both hands, so I'm going to put you back up over here. And you want to just go ahead and wiggle it off. Now comes what can potentially be the tricky part. Depending on how bad your bearings are, will determine how easily you can separate the inner tub from the outer tub. This shaft right here is the end of the spider arm, and it goes through the bearings. So we'll see if we get lucky and it just comes off by itself. Now, it does not. So if it doesn't come off just by lifting it up, you're going to have to use a little bit of force. You do want to be super careful though. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we're going to turn it on its side. Okay, so I'm going to take this 4-pound hammer. What I'm going to do is try to, as straight and evenly as possible, tap on this spider arm to loosen it out. Do keep in mind that if you do it too hard or too many times, you're going to flatten out the top of this, and the spines of the end of this spider arm, you're not going to be able to get your rotor back over it, because the grooves inside here line up with the grooves from the spider arm. Now, worst case scenario, if you're having a really difficult time getting it out, you can just smash the heck out of it. But know that you're going to have to replace the spider arm, and that spider arm is going to run you about $70. So worst case, you're going to have to buy a spider arm and bearings. But at this point, for this particular machine, I don't know yet if the spider arm is cracked. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we could have bad bearings. There could be a small crack in the spider arm. So I'm going to try to be as gentle as I can to get it out in case that the spider arm is still good. See, I gave that a couple of taps and it's coming loose, and it has already started to pop out the other side. So now I can separate the inner tub from the outer tub by pulling it out. All right, now this is where you want to do a close inspection on your spider arm, okay? What you're looking for, zoom in a little bit, what you're looking for are cracks, okay? And usually those cracks are going to occur somewhere along the thinnest part of the arms, along in here. This one looks like it is perfectly good. There is quite a bit of rust here. That's more than likely from the bearing starting to fail. So you can go ahead and get that all cleaned up if you want. You're always going to have a bunch of grime that just builds up inside of here. So if you're not going to replace your spider arm, you can use a shop vac and screwdriver, get all that gunk out, clean it up before you put it back on. But this is what we're really interested in. And if I take a look at it up close, first you can see how this seal, this tub seal right here, is slightly raised. Okay, it's starting to warp. Now that's going to let water go down into the bearing, which is down in here, the inner bearing. So I'm gonna pull that out real quick. I usually just use a pair of channel locks, get up underneath it, and there is our inner bearing. And of the two bearings, this is usually the one that fails, just because it's in proximity to water. And if that seal starts to fail like it was, water will get down in there and mess it up. And you can actually, I don't know if you hear it, but when I spin it, you can actually hear the bearings rubbing on the inside. So this is definitely bad. This is definitely the culprit. All right, so now we're going to pound the old bearings out. And to do that, I use the same 4-pound hammer. And this is just a chisel that I use to hammer it out. I'll put a link in the description for one similar to it. They're on about $10, and it does make the job a lot easier. So I always start going from the inside to the outside bearing. So you've got this inside one and this outside bearing. We're going to knock this one out first. And I just stick the chisel down in there, hammer away. Okay, that one popped out. Now you want to flip it over. And we're just going to do the same thing to the other side. Careful not to smack your hand like I just did. And now that side's out. Just get yourself a towel. Go ahead and just clean it all up out in there. Make sure you're getting any leftover debris. And now we can put the new bearings in. Okay, so we've got our new bearings right here. Okay, you have the outer bearing, which is the smaller of the two, and the inner bearing, which is the larger of the two. And so the actual size of these bearings, if you were to buy them separately, this one is going to be this smaller outer one is going to be a 6305, and this is a 2RS. And then your inner bearing is going to be a 6306 2RS. And that's more for if you wanted to buy them individually. The ones that I have in the link are actually going to be a whole kit that has both bearings, the inner tub seal, as well as the outer tub seal. So what we want to do first is take a little WD-40 and just spray it on the outside, just to lubricate it a little bit so it goes in a little bit easier. Set your bearing in there as best you can, as evenly as you can get it. It's not going to go in all the way. You're going to have to hit it in. Now, one thing you don't want to do is just take a hammer and start smacking it in, because you're going to ruin that bearing. You're going to go through all that work for nothing. What you want is to take your old bearing, okay, just clean it off first. You're going to have one side that you beat up, and the other side should be pretty good. So you want to take the side that's good and flat, set it right on top of your old bearing, okay? Get it lined up perfectly. And then I just take that same hammer that I was using, start up here, and then just go straight down and smack it. And then just line it up again. Want to make sure it's perfectly lined up. Give it another smack. And you just want to keep repeating that process until you've got it all the way in. And you'll know when it's all the way in, because that last smack, it has a very distinct sound to it. It's very solid, like that. Okay. Now that one's in. Just give it a quick wipe down. And you can go ahead and spin it by hand with your finger and just kind of make sure that you don't hear any funny noises or anything. And then you can flip it over. And we'll do the inside one. Now, same thing. You want to put some WD-40 around the outside of it. Lube it up. Just pop it in there as best you can, as straight as you can. Take the old bearing, give it a good wipe down. Pick the side that is the flattest. It's going to be this side, the side that we didn't hit. Put it on there, line everything up perfectly, and give it a good smack. Wipe it down. And now you want to take the inner tub seal, just place it in there, make sure it's nice and firm and get it as flush as you can. Now we're going to pick our back half of the tub up and slip it back over our drum. Okay, just make sure it's all the way through. You take your rotor, put it back on there. Take this nut and put it back on. You turn it on its side, and then you just want to spin it with your hand as fast as you can, and you should hear just a slight humming. That sounds nice and smooth. If for some reason it sounds really clunky or is making, you know, funky noises, it probably means that you damaged them when putting them in. And if that's the case, I would recommend getting another set and putting them in before you try to put the machine all the way back together, only to realize that the ones you just put in are bad and you're in the same position that you were originally in. Okay, so now we're just going to put the front half of the tub back over here. And you want to make sure that if yours has this heating coil right here, when you pick it up and stick it in, there's this little bracket right here. You want that coil to go in between there. And just go ahead and take your screws and place them back in all the holes all the way around. And once you've got them back in, you screw them all in. I normally do it twice. I go all the way around once, getting them most of the way in, and then I will go back around again, applying just a little bit more pressure just to make sure that they're in all the way to the point where they stop spinning. And now we know everything is on there nice and tight. Before we go ahead and put that tub assembly back up in here, okay, I want you to take a close look at your shock absorbers. Okay, you've got 1 shock, 2, and 3 shock absorbers. My recommendation is that if you are already at this point where you're taking your machine all the way apart, go ahead and order replacements on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. They cost about 20 bucks. If you look at these, you can see, I don't know if you can really tell, but you can see that there is grease coming out. Now that grease is supposed to be packed up inside the shock, okay? And the way this works is as your drum is bouncing up and down, this shock moves as well, and it's supposed to have a lot of tension on it. And when that grease starts seeping out, it loses its tension and it slides in and out a lot more than it should. It causes your machine to bounce all over the place. I would definitely recommend replacing those while you have your machine all the way open. Again, I will have a link for that in the description. And to finish taking those shocks out, just like we did earlier in the video, you would just want to remove these pins, okay? All three of those pins, take your shocks out, pop your new ones in, put all the pins back in, and then you're good to go. Okay, so now we want to put the tub back up, and I usually try to get it as close to the machine as I can, facing in the right direction, and then go ahead and get your springs. Okay, now it's important that you know that the spring on your left hand side is going to go in from the front out towards the back like that, so it can hook into the metal on the machine. And the one on this side, you're going to hook in from the back coming towards you, so that the hook at the top is facing towards the right, so it can hook into that side of the machine. You just pick it up, walk it in, and hook one side, and then hook the other, and take your tabs and lock those back into place. Now that we've got our tub back in, just push back on it, and then take your shock absorber and line it up with the hole in the machine. Pop your pin in, and you might be able to push it in with your hand. If not, you can take a hammer and just hammer it in. And then you'll come to the other side and do the same thing. Then you want to take the hose here and reconnect it to your drain pump. And then we're going to reconnect all of our wires. First, I'm going to take off the nut that we put back on here. Now, your red wire is going to go on the left-hand side, and then you connect the blue and white wire into the plug. Your yellow wire will come to this one on the right, and then your ground wire goes over, and that nut goes back on, and screw it in. Okay, now we're in the back of the machine. We're going to reconnect this shock back here. So same thing, just push it up, get your pin, pop it in a little bit, and then hammer the rest in. And you want to reconnect this tube back to right here. Just make sure it's on there all the way. You'll take this ground wire, screw it back in here, and then we will reconnect these. Pull the plastic down over them, and then use that twist tie just to close it up, so that in the event that you have a leak at some point, no water gets down in there. All right, now you can go ahead and put your counterweights back on. Now I did go ahead and replace this boot seal already. Remember, it had a tear in the bottom. So I put a different one on there. I didn't show that in the video because that's not what the video is about. But in the event that you do want to know how to replace your boot seal, I have another video. If you go to my channel, it's going to be one of my earlier videos, so it'll be at the bottom of the list. I think it says something along the lines of how to clean a moldy or dirty boot seal, and in that video it actually shows you the process of taking that off and replacing it. We can go ahead and reconnect this hose. This one is going to be the one that goes on the left. We'll pop this hose back on here. You just work it down there. It's got a little groove in it that lines up with this plastic tab right here. And then just screw it in to tighten it down. You might have to hold the nut on the back part of it. Tighten that up all the way. And then if you come over here, you're going to take that hose that runs from your drain line and connect it back into that piece of the tub right there. Now you can bring this over and push this out of the way. You want to deal with the dispenser first. Just get your hose, put it on the back of your dispenser. And then screw it down. Sorry, I couldn't give you a better angle there. So once you've got that back on, you're going to take these two plastic tabs and stick them into the slots here. You don't have to push it all the way through, just kind of get it in there for now. And then this one, so this water heater tank goes underneath these hoses right here. And then the back part over here of this this metal piece is going to go up on top of this this piece of metal that's coming from the machine, so that you can screw down into it. And you'll get the plastic tabs from this one in the slots over here on the side, and then just work it forward. You want to make sure that if you did disconnect the hose from this water inlet valve the way that I did, you just want to come back over and reconnect it. Now you can reconnect this hose, put the clamp on it. So we're going to take our metal plate, and you've actually got these two little hooks, metal hooks, one on this end and one on this end. They're going to go into a little slot right here, as well as over here, so you can hook one side in. I usually do that side first because it's easier. Make sure that you get this metal bar up and over the top of this, and then you can work this through and screws back in. You're going to have two on this side, and two on this side. As well as the ones on top. Then you want to get your panel, pop it back on there. Okay, don't forget to reach over the top and reconnect the wire harness that plugs into your door switch. And you can screw your front panel back in. Okay, next is your control panel. Feed your wires through. Make sure that you pop it back on there right. Put the screws back through for the dispenser. Dispenser can go back in there. And don't forget about the screw that holds the control panel in place right here. And you can reconnect your wires. Tuck them back into these little holders and wrap them around. And then last but not least, you want to we want to resecure the boot seal. So for this, all you want to do is pull your boot seal through, okay? And then you want to grab the end of it with the tips of your fingers. You get a better look here, and you can see that, pull this back, there's a metal lip right here, and all you're going to do is grab your boot seal and just work it over the top all the way around. You just want to make sure that it's nice and flush. And now you're going to take this metal ring and you're going to work it into the groove back here of the boot seal. And I always put the spring at the bottom, and I kind of off center it just slightly to the right of the middle. And I get about half of it in. And then, like I said, you can go on Amazon and buy the spreader tool, or I use a pair of needle nose pliers and just grab the other end of the spring down here and then just pull to the right and work it all in. And then just feel your way around to make sure that it's in there all the way. All right, now that we've got it all put back together, we'll put it back on the diagnostic mode and put it to the spin cycle just to double check that it is sounding the way that it's supposed to. So again, it'll be on this machine, the wash button and the spin speed button together at the same time, and then the power button. Wait for the door to lock, and you can press it once, and then press it again. And now there's no more knocking. It doesn't sound funny at all. Brand new bearings in there. It sounds exactly the way that it should.
All right, that's all there is to it. You've successfully completed doing the installation of your bearings on your front load washer, and it's all good to go. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I hope that I was able to help you with this. If you do decide to buy bearings from somewhere else other than the link in my description, nothing wrong with that. But just make sure that you're getting good quality ones, okay? Wherever you buy them from, make sure to check the reviews, see what other people have to say. There are tons of different kinds out there that range from, you know, super low price to super high price. The quality is night and day from one to the next on some, and the last thing I want you to do is get some cheap ones or bad ones that you know, you put in there and they last you 2 months or 3 months. You know, you did all that work and then they go bad, and then you're right back to square one. So anyway, take care. We'll see you next time.